From the News Channel 5 Network and Out and About newspaper, this is Out and About Today. Sponsored by the Tennessee Performing Arts Center.
Welcome to Out and About Today. I'm Brent Meredith. We have another big show for you tonight. Pam and I will join Chuck on tonight's Entertainment Outlook to discuss what's trending in entertainment. And we've got to look at the new documentary, Real in the Closet, and this year's Emmy nominations. But first, we like to open all of our shows with our weekly Buzz About, which we know you love hearing us talk about. I'm joined by my co-hosts Pam Wheeler and Chuck Long, and by Out and About Nashville editor, James Grady. Well, it's good to see you all again. Welcome.
Great to see you.
How are you guys?
I'm well.
She's well, apparently. Okay, well, cool. Well, let's jump right in. We've got some things to cover here. So, you know, we've been talking about the SCOTUS ruling and marriage for forever, it seems like. And so now that we're past that, as we've discussed on here, there's things to come after the fact. So what happens after that? And I found an interesting article recently about this sort of the global backlash to America's gay rights triumph. And so I know, did you guys have a chance to kind of look this over? So
oh, yeah.
Interesting story. And I just wanted to read a couple little passages here. And so like all of these are delivered in the landmark ruling. They illustrate a dynamic that's been worrying the international LGBT community. As American evangelicals lose traction here, they are now trying to increase and pick up abroad. Thoughts on that before we hop into Chuck? You're looking like you got something to say.
Well,
so basically, now that we have sort of marriage equality and they've put their time and efforts into that, they're looking for ways now to sort of thwart those efforts in other areas.
Right. I mean, I think they're continuing to try to do that here, which is also infuriating. Yeah, exactly. But I think that they're really seeing, you know, places like Africa where they can really build up that fear-based mongering, you know, of the evangelicals, and they do it by, you know, making them feel threatened. And it's just, to me, it's just the saddest thing. And yet, we've added fuel to their fire, you know, and we did nothing other than just ask for our rights.
Well, one of the things that's mentioned in the article I thought was interesting is that there was sort of this live and let live feeling now, or perceived feeling here in the U.S. And there's a picture actually from one of the Kenya protests, which we'll get to in just a second. But literally out in the streets protesting the president's visit. You know, people were being evicted, suspected gay couples over this, and saying, I think one of the quotes was, "You go out and just live outside and wait for your Obama to show up." So really across the country, especially in Africa, or the world rather, people are seeing this. But back to the point, live and let live feeling here is not necessarily the case, and they're really trying to go after these, you know, these people in other countries. James, you and I were talking a little bit earlier. I think you have an opinion on some of this. What do you feel is the real reason behind this?
Well, you know, I think that people, when they feel like they have been thwarted, there's always going to be an outlet. You know, pressure can't build up indefinitely, and this is a release valve. They're going to seek to build up support elsewhere and firm up their base somehow. Yeah. And I think it's pretty scary.
What do you think the implications might be, though, as they're building sort of a bigger base across the world or outside of this country?
I don't think there's some big end game. I don't. I think it'll go out big and then retract back. And it's not really surprising because the ruling didn't go a lot of people's way, right? And if it didn't go our way, we had a lot of plans in motion, right? I'm not saying there was fear. We were ready to scare people, so, you know, we're on the different side of it. But I just think we're going to see a lot of this. And I know I'm kind of shifting gears, but with the election next year, this issue is going to come out over and over again, just trying to polarize people.
Were you surprised, though, that so many... I thought maybe when this happened that it would be like, okay, now we'll all just get along.
No,
I mean, you didn't think that.
Well, I don't know if some of my opinions were based on reading some articles pre-decision from some politicos who said, get ready. There's a lot of folks that are not going to be happy, and it's going to rally them together. They're going to be able to stand behind and all be on the same side that this was wrong.
Right, and it's almost like James said, it's like, you know, we're going to really build our base elsewhere. The pressure's got to build. They can't get anywhere here, so where else to turn? Turn to those countries who are still enacting legislation today that could sentence you to 15 years in prison.
And I'm not convinced that in a larger scheme of things, there's not some sort of plan. I don't know if it's a well-constructed one, but, you know, just like in the past when one of the main arguments against gay marriage was, well, look at the states. So few states believe in it. So I think if we can somehow show that the majority of the world is against this, then they just have to wait and bide their time for things to go wrong, and then they can point to that and say, well, you know, maybe it's time for a constitutional amendment. Or
and that was one of the other points that was made, was that it said even progressives may eventually come to rue the day that they did this because of that very reason, and we might have to go back and switch things back to, you know, switch the normalcy switch back on. Anyway, did you have something else to say before we move on?
If you look at other polarizing topics like abortion, And when Roe versus Wade came down, we're still talking about that, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Right.
It's a very valid point still.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it wouldn't surprise me. 20 years, when we're still on the panel here, and we're talking about the divide.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, look where we are with Roe versus Wade. I mean, we're as restrictive as we were.
Even more so, I think.
Even more so than we were in the decade after the decision.
Yeah.
And you look at a place like Africa, and it's still illegal in 34 countries. I mean, illegal. Not just frowned upon. It's illegal.
Illegal.
Yeah.
Illegal. Anyway, I don't mean to change the subject because we could talk about this forever. But I'm going to because I find this next topic's really interesting to me, and it's a little bit more on a positive spin. So just last month, the EEOC, or the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, this is the U.S. Commission, issued sort of an edict saying that the 1964 Civil Rights Act, there's their seal there, actually covers sex discrimination as is written already, and they're wondering why and encouraging people to go ahead and start suing if you're having issues or being threatened or could be fired at work for being LGBT. It's something that we've talked about on here before, but to now have this sort of hard evidence from the people who manage this to say this. I mean, initial thoughts, Pam, you've got a kind of an interesting look on your face.
I've seen this, and I wonder how much traction it's getting. Is it getting a lot of traction? Are people filing suits against their former employers, or?
I don't know that it's happened yet, but they were hoping with this that they would sort of push people to doing that. Like, look, this is already there. Challenge it via this way.
Right.
I think it's more of a kind of a warning sign that we do need to take care of this, though, so that it doesn't become, because I think a lot of people unwittingly think that it's no longer a possibility. You know?
Right.
All right, we're just about out of time. I want to throw up the August cover, though, and give James a minute to talk about that if we've got that ready.
I mean, this month, given the gay marriage decision and that it came too late last month for us to put it on the cover, we went with a marriage issue. We spent half the issue basically looking at couples who have gotten married in the last couple of years and what it meant to them to have their marriages recognized. So
cool. We'll be on the lookout for that on stands. And thank you guys very much. We could always talk more, but we've got to go. We'll be right back with more in the entertainment outlook with us. Stay with us.